career of how do we actually start to activate and train this big old muscle on the top of our head here. And from my experience, there's really 3 cornerstones of training the mind. And I'm going to be the first one to tackle. A lot of this is going to sound like frou-frou, weird, awkward science, but I promise you that this is backed by a lot of scientific methods. And I'll get into a lot of those as well. But the first cornerstone is breathing and meditation. The second is proper visualization. And the third is a routine and consistency around this. So the main thing to know here is there is none of this is hard. Actually training, learning how to train your mind is the easiest thing you're going to do. The hardest part about this is actually just finding the time to be consistent about it. So let me first talk about breathing. So one of the things that I had learned is I was early in my career. I was probably 21, 20 at the time. And I went with a few of my other racing friends. We went to this facility in Italy. And in Italy, this is the top of the line. Every professional driver from Formula One to IndyCar to NASCAR has all been there. And the first thing that they do is they sit you down to play some video games. And all of these video games are meant to task you mentally in different ways. So like one of the games is a straight reaction time game. One of the games was it would flash a word and it would say red, and it might be written in the color black. So it'd say red, but it was black. And you have to say true, false. And it was testing you on accuracy and speed of results. And you had 100. And there was a bunch of these different tests. And it was me and like 5 other race car drivers just sitting down, air-conditioned room, nice and relaxed, going through this test. And above that screen, they had a heart rate monitor. And after the first, of course, we're all competing, right? Like we want to win every single game. And we're sitting there relaxed. And all of a sudden we look up at our heart rates and they were like 140, 150, 160 beats per minute. And we're just like relaxed sitting there, right? But we're stressed trying to win this thing. So the performance psychologist came in and, they started walking us through our overall results. And none of us did exceptionally well. Like we were all pretty closely matched. But the biggest kind of difference is they're like, hey, look at these, the athletes that perform at the absolute best in this same position, their heart rates are 70 beats per minute, 80 beats per minute. You are more than double that. And the reason behind that is we really didn't have we just did it, right? Like I didn't know what to do. And that's where they started to introduce why and how to breathe and the importance of breathing. So let me first tackle kind of what are we trying to achieve here? Have you heard the term like smooth is fast?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's true across every sport. And what we were doing is we were pressing and pressing and pressing and starting to tense and gets more tense. And your reaction times, your decision-making, all of this starts to degrade as you get more tense. As your heart rate starts to rise, you start to tax yourself. And as you start to tax yourself physically, you also start to break down mentally. So not only, even when you're fresh, it's slower to be tense, but then you start to kind of degrade physically. And the faster you degrade physically, the faster you degrade mentally. But the second part of this is what they taught to me was sort of being aware of mental chatter. So as with any athlete, there were some races I did well and some races I did crap, but I never really knew what was the difference. And one of the major things that happens is obviously as an athlete, we need to be present and in the moment, focus on the task at hand. But a lot of times when we don't have awareness inwards, there's a whole conversation our brain is having with itself that we're not even aware of. So an example in motorsports, and interesting enough, motorsports and soccer are very, very closely aligned here. And one of the things that Coach Mike was saying, how soccer never really stops, like it's continuous. Motorsports is the same thing. Like once you're in the car, there is no break. You're having to always be focused on the present moment. And these are the sports that are even more critical to focus mentally, because what ends up happening is, let's say you make a mistake. And for me, making a mistake was missing an apex or running wide in a corner. It's so easy to be like, oh, you idiot. Like, what the hell were you doing? Like, come on, stop making these mistakes. And all during that time, that's been 30 seconds of game that you're not even focused on the game. You're focused on the mistake you've made, right? So what breathing is meant to be able to do is allow you to tune better into what's going on in your mind, to be able to recognize, oh, wait, I'm not focused on the game. I'm focused on something else. That mental chatter can be anything. It could be school problems. It could be work problems. It could be relationship problems. It could be mistakes that you just made. It could be any one of these things. Being able to recognize when that happens faster and being able to redirect your focus back to being in the moment. So this has been honestly the number one thing that has made an impact in my career is breathing. And it's specifically square breathing. Have you ever been taught square breathing before?
No.
Got it. I know it sounds dumb, be teaching you how to breathe, right? Like, what is the dumbest thing ever? But I promise you, it is going to make a huge impact on being calmer. So let's do this together. So the first thing here is, if you're sitting down like this and you breathe in, my question for you, for both of you, is if you have your hand on your chest and a hand on your belly, which hand moves more when you breathe in? Your hand on the chest or hand on your belly?
Maybe I have done this before.
Have you done this before? Okay, how about you, Izzy?
Your chest.
So that's the normal answer. How about for you, Coach Mike? You're muted.
Up here, the higher part of the chest for me.
Got it. So which hand should be moving more is actually the hand on your belly. So we want to first focus in here on how to breathe deeper into your diaphragm. Now, there's a bunch of like nerves in here that help calm you down. So we're not going to do all of this right now, but the first thing I'd like you to do, Izzy, and find some time with this, quiet time, is just lay down, get comfy, and really try to focus more and more on breathing down into your belly. You should really, like, it's not like your chest isn't moving, your chest moves, but your belly should be the thing that really moves more and more and more. Eventually, every time you breathe, it'll be more down in here that you feel it. And that's what you want to start to be consistent. Once we have that, what is square breathing? Well, it's really simple. It's you breathe in for 1 to 2 seconds. You hold that breath in for 1 to 2 seconds. You exhale for 1 to 2 seconds, and then you hold breathless for 1 to 2 seconds. That last part where you breathe out and you hold without any air is the most important part. That's where you really get relaxed. So what this does, breathing into the belly, holding that breath out, is it relaxes us, but then it also makes you focus, right? If you're just breathing, it's easy to kind of lose the focus, but by thinking about like, okay, breathing in for 1 to 2 seconds. Okay, let me hold it. Okay, let me breathe out. Let me breathe in. Notice where your focus goes. Your focus comes inward into your body, right? So that's why square breathing is so important. And what we're going to start to do is we're going to start to about like timing and how to incorporate this back into sports. But for right now, like this is like the intro to meditation. And like meditation, I know is taking this like really weird turn and like it sounds like all kind of strange and weird, but it's really simple. And it's meant to calm us. It's meant to keep us more in tune with our mental chatter. And it's going to start to let us find the zone. And I'm sure you've heard the term the zone before. And if you were describing, if I had to describe the zone for me, it's this like calm, but super intense moment where I'm focused in the moment on the task at hand to the exclusion of everything else. And everyone's going to describe it with different words, but for most people, it feels relatively similar. So this breathing inward, you're focusing in the moment, you're calming, but you're going to be able to keep intense. And that's what this is trying to introduce.